Hey everyone, Cody from Mac Telecom Networks. In this video, we're going to be looking at the VPN options within our Ubiquiti consoles. There are quite a bit of VPN options that we can do, whether that be Site Magic or we use something like Teleport, OpenVPN, or Wireguard. Now, there are a couple that I'm not going to talk about, and that's the L2TP and the Wireguard Client VPN. I use NordVPN and will be using the OpenVPN profile for that. If you'd like to support my channel, the best way to do so is with the Ubiquiti affiliate links down below in the description. If you'd like to hire me for network consulting, visit my website at mactelecomnetworks.com. And we do have a Discord server if you want to become a part of the community. Before we get started, let's take a look at the setup. So we have our Site 1, which is our remote site, and it has an internet connection of 1 gig down and 50 up, and that's connecting to the Unifi Cloud Gateway. On the Cloud Gateway, we have a Zima board, which is running open speed tests for us to do some testing at the end with these VPNs. Now, in the middle, we're going to have a Site Magic VPN configured so both of these sites could talk to each other, and that's going to my second site or my main site, which this computer is living on, and that's going to my UDM SE, and that internet connection is 3 gig down and 3 gig. Now, within our Unifi network controllers, where we find the VPNs is just under the VPN section. And the first one that we'll talk about, and probably the easiest to set up, is the Teleport VPN. Even if you have double NAT or you're using CGNAT, this will still work as a VPN. And you could also have remote phones at different sites in a picture shown here. All we need to do is scan the QR code and we could make our phones talk back to our main controller. And that makes it really, really great for remote workers who you want to be able to have an extension and connected to your phone system. Now, you could use this VPN on your phone or you could use it on your computer, and I'll show you on the computer. So I've downloaded the Windows client, but you could also do it on Mac OS. The first thing we need to do for this VPN is to make sure that it's enabled, and then we need to generate a new link. By generating this link, we could then hand it to whoever, or we could put this link in a web browser and it's going to show us a QR code. Now, if we're doing this from our phone, the only thing we need to do, we just open up our camera app, scan the QR code, and it will bring up the Wi-Fi Man app if we have it downloaded on our iOS and our Android. And we could, now there's a few different ways we could go about using this Windows client. We could sign into our single sign-in, and if the teleport is enabled on the site and we're an admin on the site, we're able to just join it. But right now, I'm not signed in. All I did was copied this link, and I'm going to bring back open the Wi-Fi Man client, and we'll copy that. Okay, and now you can see that we've been connected for a few seconds, and there's a bit of traffic going through, but we want to make sure that we could hit some client devices. So we'll look at the IP for, say, my Synology NAS, 192.168.1.161, and we'll bring open a command prompt. From here, we're just going to do a ping of 192.168.1.161, and you could see that we could hit that Synology NAS. Now, if I turn off the VPN, we shouldn't be able to hit it. So I'm going to go ahead and disconnect. And then I'm just going to hit the up arrow and then enter. And you can see, since we're disconnected from the VPN, we can't hit that Synology NAS. That's why Wi-Fi Man is probably the easiest one using Teleport. Now, if I click in the left-hand corner of the Wi-Fi Man Windows client, we could log into our single sign-on. So I'm going to do that. Now I'm signed into my single sign-on. The icon is a little bit broken, but once I hit this drop-down menu, it's going to show me all the sites that I could connect to. So here you can see Mac Telecom Lab, and then we could see Mac Telecom SE below, and then I have a bunch of other clients. But if you don't have Teleport enabled on the site, it's going to let you know. As you can see here, this site says unavailable for Teleport, so that's either it's disconnected or it's maybe just a UMVR that doesn't support Teleport. Now, connecting to the Teleport client, we're going to do a couple tests. We'll do open speed test, and then we'll do a internet speed test as well. For the other VPNs, I'll just end up putting them into a Google worksheet, and then we'll look at it at the end. So I'm going to press start on this open speed test. Okay, so the results were 53.7 down, and that's around the max that I'll be getting because that internet connection only has 50 upload. And then the upload of open speed test was 356, which is relatively good. Now let's try doing a speed test to see what we get. Now we're connecting to wifiman.com. That is their speed test, and we'll see what we get. And our final results were 50.99 down and 51.95 up, which is pretty good, and we would still be able to connect to our servers and do our work. Now the next VPN we're going to be looking at is the Wireguard server, and after that we'll do OpenVPN. It's pretty much the same thing, but we could name the server. It has a private and a public key, and then we have our server address, which is our public IP of our WAN 1. We could also use a different address for clients if we want to use a different public IP or FQDN. Under manual, I'm going to go ahead and switch this host address because 192.168.2.1, that is used by Unifi Teleport. So we're just going to give this a 22.1 and that's it. Down below, we could also change the DNS server. For this video, I'm going to pretty much leave everything at default just to show you how easy it is to get these VPNs up and running. Now, the next thing we need to do, we need to add a client. So I'll click Add Client. I'll give it a name of Cody. And then we're just going to use auto. But if we want more security, we could go to manual and we could put in pre-shared keys and additional routes. Now, to automatically connect a client, we either need to scan this QR code or we need to download the config file. So let me download the config file. You would see that popped up, Wireguard server 1 cody.conf, and we're going to press add, and then we're going to add the VPN. Now going back to our VPN server, we could see Wireguard server 1, we could see the type, and then we could see the local IP and active clients. There currently are no active clients. You can see the config file right here, Wireguard server 1-Cody. I'll click open. Now it's going to show us a couple of things on here. It's going to say the status, which is inactive. We could see the public key, we could see the addresses, and then we could see the DNS. Down below our peer, we're going to also see the public key there, and we'll see allowed IPs, as well as our endpoint, which is our public IP, and then the Wireguard port. So let's go ahead and activate this VPN. Under our client list, it is showing who is connecting to the VPN. It's Cody, so that was done under my profile, and you could see that I got an IP of 192.168.28.2. Let's go ahead and try to ping that Synology again. So we're going to ping 192.168.1.161. and we are able to get there so we could access resources from our business. Now, OpenVPN is pretty much the same thing, except we need to create users. So we have their name, we have the server address, then we could use the alternate address as well. And then we have user authentication. So we need to create a new user. Here, we're going to put in a name and a password. So this name will be test and the password will be test1234. You can go to the radius and create a bunch of users if you want at one time. We're just going to do this single user. Now again, since Teleport uses 192.168.2.1, we're going to need to switch this. We'll put it at 23.1 and we're going to leave everything else the same and we'll press add. Now this is going to prepare a config file for us, so we're going to have to wait a few minutes and then come back and then download it. Now the configuration file is ready. We're going to click on download. This will download it and we need to open up our OpenVPN server, or if we just click on the file, it will bring up the OpenVPN client for us. Now with the configuration file done, we need to upload the file. I'm going to browse to my downloads and then bring this in. It's going to show us a couple of things here. So we have our profile name and then we have the server host name, which is my public IP. We need to put in that username that I created, which was test, and then press connect. Now it's going to ask us for our password for that, and it was test1234. And once we press OK, it should connect us to the VPN. And there you go, we're connected to the VPN. And just to verify again, we'll bring up the command prompt and then I'll hit the up arrow and we'll try to get to that Synology NAS and we're able to hit it. Now the next VPN that we're going to talk about is the VPN client. And what I would primarily use this for is with something like a privacy VPN. So like NordVPN, I could route all my traffic on a subnet or an individual device through it. And we do use NordVPN over here, and I'm going to be using OpenVPN to do that. So we could give it a name, OpenVPN client, and then we need to get the configuration file. So whoever you're with, if you're with private internet access, NordVPN, you need to find that OpenVPN config or WireGuard config. Now on the NordVPN website, you could see all the different servers that they have for OpenVPN. I'm just going to grab one from the United States and I'm going to download the UDP file. Now with that file downloaded, we're going to upload it into our firewall. So I'll click upload, and then at the top, you could see us10.185.nordvpn. That's the server we're going to connect to, and we'll press open. Now it's going to ask us for a username and password, and this is going to be different for whichever vendor that you're using for your privacy VPN. On NordVPN, it's done under the manual setup. You could see the username and the password. So I'm going to copy both of these, and then I'm going to paste them in. Now with the username and password inputted, we need to press apply changes, and then this should show us that it's up and running. So we could see that it's connecting and it's currently yellow, but it should come up green afterwards, and then we could route through it. It said add traffic routes. Traffic routes are required to send IPv4 traffic from devices on networks to this VPN client connection. We're going to skip this for now, but I will show you that in just a second. Now, if we click the back arrow on the VPN clients, we could see the name, the type, and then we could see the tunnel or subnet that it's given us, as well as the server IP address. Currently, there's no download or upload because nothing's going through it. and then we could see the uptime. So to route a client or a subnet through this NordVPN connection, we need to do a traffic route. And I'm really glad that they add this tooltip in. It's very useful for people just getting started. So we'll go to our traffic routes. Here, I'm going to say Cody's computer to NordVPN. We're going to say all traffic, but you could do specific traffic if you'd like. And then we're going to select a network or a device. So the source we just need to click, and we could do a full subnet, or we could just do one of these devices. My computer is called Mac Telecom, so we'll select that and we'll press save. And then we're going to select the interface. So the interface that we're going to be using is this OpenVPN client, and we can turn a fallback on. So if we were doing this to do load balancing or policy-based routing through WAN 1 and WAN 2, and WAN 2 fails, well, it would push us back to WAN 1. I'm going to leave that unchecked for now and just add the entry. Now, if we look at what my IP is, we're getting an IP of 138.199.10.134, which is NordVPN, so our traffic is routing properly. Now, I'm going to skip over this site-to-site VPN because I don't have another WAN connection that has a public IP, so I can't show you it working, but it is pretty straightforward to do. We could either do OpenVPN or we could do IPsec. The only reason I would use this site-to-site VPN is if I'm connecting to another type of firewall like a pfSense. All we would need to do is put in a name, a pre-shared key, the remote IP, or the host. We'd also have to put in our remote networks that we want to connect to. The pre-shared key on the other side needs to be exactly the same. I do have some site-to-site videos that I did a couple years back, and I'll post a few down below. Another VPN that we could do is Unifi Identity, and we could either do this on our Windows machine or we could do this on our phones. I believe it works for Mac OS as well, but I'm going to create a new user. So I'm going to click the plus arrow and we're going to add the user. The user I'll just call sales, and then I'll give it my sales email address. Under the network, what we want them to do is just to be able to connect to the one-click VPN. This does work for Wi-Fi and door access as well. I'm going to press add. Now, adding this user, it says invite user to join Unifi Identity. And once I press send, it's going to push this out to their email and it will tell us how to set up. Now we have an email from Unifi Identity and click to install the app. So we're going to click and then we're going to download Unifi Identity manually. So this will be for our computer. I already had it downloaded, but I do need to update the version. So we'll click on update. Now with it updated, we're going to press launch Identity now. We can see in the bottom right corner, it says YouTube test Mac Telecom SE. This was an old configuration that I had done previously, but if we go back to the web page, we're going to want to load your credentials. So we're going to open the identity, and it's currently loading the credentials for us. Now you can see we are connected to our gateway, and all we need to do to connect to the VPN is hit this toggle switch. Now that we're connected to the VPN, let's try to hit that Synology NAS once more. And you can see we're able to do it. Unifi Identity, the free version, is very easy to use, as you can see here. Now, the last VPN that we're going to talk about is SiteMagic, and I love SiteMagic. It makes it very easy to do site-to-site VPNs between your Unifi cloud consoles. It says right in the middle, SiteMagic makes site-to-site VPN setup effortless, and it really does. So we're going to click here to get started. Now, currently, as of this video, we could only connect up to 15 sites, but they will end up adding more in the future. We need to have at least one site that has a public IP, and then we could connect to it. But what we're going to do, we're going to connect the Mac Telecom Lab because that has a public IP, and then we're going to connect my Mac Telecom SE, which this computer is sitting on. Once we do that, we could give it a name and we could add them together. Now, after we press add, we could see all of our subnets popping up on the screens on our consoles. So my Mac Telecom SE, you could see that I have quite a few networks. On my Mac Telecom Lab, we just have two, which is default and SiteMagic. The two networks that I want to communicate is my default on Mac Telecom SE, 192.168.10.0, and the default on the lab. Once we have our network selected that we want to be able to talk, we could press connect. Now you can see that it's going yellow, but once it's connected and configured, it will go green, and we should be able to hit that Synology NAS from this site because we're doing that site-to-site VPN. Now we could see that they're both green. That means the site-to-site VPN is connected. And just to verify that I'm on the default network, we'll go ipconfig, and you could see that I get an IP address of 192.168.10.126. So now let's try to hit the Synology NAS on the other side. So ping 192.168.1.161, and we're able to hit it. So that's great. The site-to-site is working perfectly. Now, the last thing we'll talk about is some basic firewall rules. So say this computer, we don't want them to reach my Zima board, but but we want it to go over to my Synology NAS so that we could access resources. You'd see my CAS-OS is on 192.168.1.10, which is my Zima board. And if we ping that, we could go 192.168.1.10 and we're able to hit it. So we want to block that out. So let's make a firewall rule to do that. The first thing I'm going to do is create an IP group, and then we're going to create new and call this VPN users. The type is going to be IPv4, and the address will be of 192.168.10.0/24. We'll press add, and then we'll add again. Now we need to go over to security, traffic, and firewall rules. From here, we're going to create an entry. The type is going to be LAN out. So anytime we're talking about VPN firewall rules, it's always going to be under LAN out. And we'll say deny VPN to Zima board. The action I'm going to have is to reject. The source is going to be that group that I just created, VPN users, and the destination will be the address of my Zima board. So 192.168.1.10, and then we'll add in the rule. Now, if we bring my command prompt back up, we shouldn't be able to hit that Zima board. And you could see that it's getting rejected, but we could still get to our Synology NAS. So let's try to hit it. And we could still access those resources on our Synology. Now, just from the few VPN speed tests that I did internally and externally, I was using OpenSpeedTest. Externally, I was using WiFiMan.com. But let's go over the internal first. So for our download, teleport one at 53.7. And for upload, Unifi Identity, the free version one, at 604.4. So externally out to the internet, the one that won was teleport, so 50.99. And then for our upload, it was Unifi Identity. The one that I would probably use more than not is Unifi Identity free. This way we could track our users. Now that was a lot to go over for the VPN section, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. If there are specific things that you want to see done with VPNs, I will do up a follow-up video. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up button. If you're new here, please subscribe and hit the bell icon. All right, thanks.